Hi, I'm Al. I'm pleased to welcome Alan Bichon, whose presentation will be on Salem's own TV channel, Capital Community Media. Alan is a recently retired founding executive director of Capital Community Media. Previously, Capital Community Television, or CCTV. Talking to the mic, okay. Thanks. I even have a sign to ask him to talk into the mic, so I better do it myself here. After 11 years with Austin Community TV, our CCTV board hired Alan to bring to Salem the largest state capital in the nation with no local broadcast TV station. Since that time, CCTV has taught media skills to several thousand people and produced more than 10,000 programs, including coverage of many of our ICL presentations. Alan served 20 years on the Alliance for Community Media National Board. While board chair, the Alliance accomplished a rare overturning of federal law at the U.S. Supreme Court and eliminating cable company editorial control over community TV channels. Briefly before he gets into his presentation, I want to say growing up in Houston, I would occasionally watch a television station that had no ads but a different type of program format. Little did I know that I was watching an educational television station started by the University of Houston, which was started in 1953 and is still in operation today. Fast forward to 1974, I was sent to the University of Oklahoma for a term of graduate studies in communication arts. One of the focus areas was on public education, television, and radio, such as was established by Alan here in Salem. Through the years here in Salem, my wife Marissa and I have seen Alan and his staff's fine coverage, and he didn't ask me to say this, for Salem's World Beat Festival and other events and programs. To us, we've seen firsthand the benefits of local community media as independent news sources, an archive of local history, community stories. And now back to Alan. He serves as president of Friends of Music, a group that advocates for music and arts education in public schools, and serves on the Salem Kawagoe Japan Sister City Board. His wife Jacinta is retired from the Judson Middle School Library, and his daughter Erica works for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in Denver. They say they have a very large, lazy, orange tabby cat named Ray and a treat begging dog named Annie. And now, here's Alan.
Thanks, Al. It's a pleasure to speak with this group. One of the really important for me after COVID that CC Media could get going with you again. I think you do amazing things and have amazing speakers. I'm not commenting about myself, but the other speakers I've seen have been really amazing. I'll watch time carefully. I always used to joke people and say, well, I can talk for 2 minutes or 2 years on something. And they said, we'll believe the 2-minute one when we see it. So I've been privileged my whole life to be able to work something I'm passionate about and to make a living at it. It's a journey for me, a journey that I had no idea was going to take place, and I want to share a little bit of that journey before we talk about Capital Community TV, now media. But in the way I view this has always been that it's regular people that did something amazing and bringing television to our community. So, for me, it was the spring of 1978, and I was just about ready to get out of college for the last time. I had worked, and I was going to need to get a job. And I had worked before. I'd worked during college. I worked at steel mills in the summer, and I worked for 3 years in an electric meter factory, 40 hours a week, and went to school. So I wasn't averse to work at all, but I really wanted to do something that made a little more sense. So let's go to oh, wait a minute. I can do the next slide. Wow. Okay, that's something good. So there's a documentary film professor. This is at Purdue University, which if you read all the graffiti in the areas, you know that it's unido perversity is what some people make into the name. But I went to Purdue, and there was a documentary film professor named Carl Lohman, and I'm indebted to Carl, because Carl said, Alan, what are you going to do after college? And I said, well, I really like TV and I like media, but what I don't like about TV is that commercial TV tries to get people to buy stuff they really don't need. So Carl said, have you heard of this thing called public access television? And I had not. And he said, well, it's non-commercial television, it's community-based, it's based on the First Amendment, that people have the right of free speech. And he said, does that sound interesting to you? And I said, well, yes, it does. So I went to Columbus, this is at Purdue University, and I went to a small town, Columbus, got a list and wrote the places that had actively started community TV. It was the First Amendment in action, and nearly 50 years in the making, now we have the CC Media of today. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Nearly 50 years in the making, now we have community media in our community, and we have, I would say, it's a novel, or it's a book, probably not a novel because it's nonfiction, but we have a book with many chapters and many unsung heroes. And that's so fortunate that people help put something together. People that many of whom had no media skills at all, or very limited media skills, very few media professionals, but people came together to give us local TV. Why? Well, people want to speak for themselves. How did this get going, though? Because the media is owned by people with a lot of means, and they really were not interested in sharing the microphone. They were not interested in providing information opportunity to others. But there was a coincidence of three main factors that I want to talk about now. How did it come about that we have community media, not only in Salem, but in cities across the nation? And the first part of it was that very simple fact that people wanted to speak for themselves. And this is the 1960s and early 70s. And I think if I look around, I think a lot of people are about the same age I am. Those were formative years, and those were years of protest. I think about the three great movements of the 1960s: civil rights, equal rights for women, and anti-Vietnam War. And if you think about that, the people that were the leaders of those movements were tired of having someone else put words in their mouth. They wanted to speak for themselves. And the First Amendment was a part of the basis. Now, I think Judge Learned Hand over here on the right-hand side of the frame is the greatest justice never to have served on the Supreme Court. But look at what is the right conclusions are likely to be gathered out of a multitude of tongues than any kind of authoritarian selection. To many this is and always be folly, but we have staked upon it our all. Either Hand or his his legal assistant, one of the two of them was a great writer, right, to come up with a sentence like that. So we had the desire for speech, but what were people going to do? Well, in the 1960s, Sony came out with a reel-to-reel black and white recorder, the AV3400, and that became an inexpensive way to record material, either a gathering like this, protest march, or whatever. So now we've got the desire to speak, and we've got the means of recording it, but what are we going to do with it? Also at this time in the 70s, especially in early 80s, cable systems were being built across the country. Originally, cable systems were just to provide decent off-air reception to communities in hilly areas. Astoria, Oregon was one of the first places to have cable TV because they couldn't cleanly get broadcast television from the city of Portland. So what happens? Not much movement on cable systems until along comes in 1975, HBO. The game changer, because now there's a reason why people in cities that have great reception, a reason for people in cities to want cable TV. So the cable industry goes berserk, and they start trying to franchise every city, because the denser the city, the more homes, the greater the profitability will be. And but they really didn't have that much different to offer. So you're going to have 6 major cable companies, and all of them offer ABC, NBC, CBS, and now HBO. So what makes a difference? Lucky for us, what made the difference was how to put in community television, community-based TV. What are the resources that they would offer? And those resources were primarily channel space and equipment, and occasionally funding for a staff. So you get these three common elements, and out of that, people see there's a way that we can have our own voice heard, that we can make our own message and get it out on cable TV, and we can do it affordably and match what Learned Hand was talking about. Well, what about Salem? How about Salem? Well, here we are, stuck between Portland and Eugene. And yeah, again, right, we're still. And the way commercial television operates is off of statistical metropolitan areas, SMAs. And out of a statistical metropolitan area, they're able to take that information and they're able to charge for commercials. Guess what? Salem is not a separate statistical metropolitan area. It's lumped in with Portland again. So that has made it very difficult. That's why Channel 5 failed in, gosh, the 1970s, and why Catch 22 or Channel 22 failed also in Salem. Broadcasters couldn't make it pencil out because they didn't have the SMA basis for charging cable rates. So what do we end up? We end up being the largest state capital in the nation without a broadcast television affiliate, and we still are. There are cities of 10,000 people that have broadcast TV channels, but we don't. So, what happens? Okay, the end of the franchise is coming about. Salem signed a franchise with a mom and pop cable company in the 1960s to wire primarily West Salem. Because why? It's hilly. And is the reception good? Not very. So this group sold out to Viacom. Viacom's one of the giants of cable television industry. And Viacom started negotiating with the city of Salem and Marion County for a franchise to continue operations. But by this time, we're in the 1980s, and there's a lot of things going on, including ESPN, which is a little bit of a game changer because it may come as a surprise to everyone here, but sports are popular. So they start negotiating, and in 1987, they sign a franchise. And what do they do in the franchise? Then this is a picture of Jane Cummins. Does anybody know Jane? She walks on water as far as I'm concerned, because she was our first board president, and she did a lot to make sure that an organization like CCTV happened. So our leaders stepped up because they thought, we cannot pull off getting a commercial television station here. But with a cable system, we could have one of these community channels, and Portland already had that. So part of this was look 50 miles to the north of what they got. They've already got 5 broadcast channels, so we would at least like to have the cable channels that they have. And that's what came out of the agreement. A franchise was signed. Cable Regulatory Commission was formed. The franchise had meager resources, but it included a channel. It included a small amount of $45,000 a year for capital. And then the city of Salem and Marion County had to decide, so what do we want this to look like? What's the model that we would use? Because in some communities, the public library might provide this, or the public schools might provide this. But they brought in experts from the Portland area, and they said, you know what? You need an independent, nonprofit organization. If you pick any one provider, and there were 3 awesome organizations that wanted to do this: Salem Kaiser Public Schools, the public library, and Chemeketa Community College. But if you pick any one of the 3 of those, the operation and what happens at the operation is probably going to look like that, the host. And we want somebody who treats everyone the same, that's inviting and involving a lot of people. So that's what happened. They decided to pick a nonprofit organization to start it anew. And on August 4, 1989, the city of Salem and Marion County incorporated Capital Community Access Television, or CCAT. Now, few people like cats as much as I do. including the one that woke me up this morning at 3:45. But we needed the letters TV in our name. We needed to be known as TV. So that's what happened. We changed that about 4 months later. So we got going, and the city of Salem then also decided two very important factors. Very appreciative of the city of Salem. We've worked hard to pay them back with the services that we provide them. But they housed us in the Salem Public Library. How many people were here when they expanded the library from 50,000 to 92,000 square feet? How many lived here? Yeah, we did too. So the city of Salem included a 2,400 square foot part of the first floor of the expanded Salem Public Library for the community TV area. They also, and some of this is amazing how this was kind of scotch taped together. They had a Cars Band microwave dish at Fire Station number 6 off of Airport Drive, and they brought the dish over because we were not connected to the head end. They used of the cable company, so we couldn't get our signal out of the library to Viacom. That would have been a bad way to go forward, right? But what allowed us to do so was the use of that Cars Band microwave dish. So then the city of Salem had one other thing they could offer, because live TV, especially for meetings, so important. There was an ancient pair of fibers that went underneath Peace Plaza from the Civic Center to the library. And we were able to make that connection, so we were able to go live. And the first live program we did was November 26, 1990, a city council meeting. So by taking some fairly small resources out of the cable franchise and existing equipment, we were able to get started. Before I go to the next slide, I would just say that I had a pretty good idea that the government meetings would be pretty popular. It's not the hugest number of people, but it's people that are very focused and interested. But the things that work well are music and sports. And that's what the board told me. They said this sentence, I've never forgotten this: put the kids on TV. And they were right. So to put the kids on TV, we got a production truck. Let's see. There it is, upper right. How do we start using these? What were the first building blocks? Well, you can see somebody up on the ladders pointing lights in that space in the Salem Public Library. Then you get our production truck, you get the control room, and then you get, can't figure out the last one from looking at this angle. But the truck, we decided that we were going to do a practice and we were going to record 3 high school football games. And our volunteers, there were only 2 professionals on the truck. I'd done sports programming in Austin, but it was really fairly new. We did these programs and they were good. We liked them and other people liked them, so we still weren't connected with that Cars Band microwave dish. We talked Chemeketa Community College, and that's who we shared Channel 34 with. We had it only 3 days a week. We said, would you play these games? And they did, and it was a hit. And that was really important because Measure 5 was looming. And we wanted to make sure that people had a way in which to look at us and see the possibilities rather than just think, oh my gosh, what do we do now? So those are the building blocks that we had. And one of my board members, Greg Parker, said, after that is actually the second decal that we had put on the truck. He said, you know, we need people to know about us. Why don't you just drive the truck around town, whether you're going to a production or not, just so people will see it. It's your best public relations tool. Greg was right. So we just drove it around town. Measure 5. This was our first pass through because my family and I had lived here only, less than a year when Measure 5 came out. And you probably remember this was like the 5th or 6th time of California Prop 13 style property tax limitation went in front of Salem voters. And there was a lot of thought of there's so much trouble that's going to happen. And that happened with us too. So Measure 5 passes, And time goes by. I remember going to a library staff meeting, and people didn't know who I was. So I stood behind two people, and George Happ was library director at the time. George talking with people, and one of the people in front of me leaned over and said, "Why don't they get rid of CCTV? They're not even going yet, and no one will miss them." This is where Jane Cummins, Dave Moss, who is also on the City Council and Cable Regulatory Commission, stepped up, and they're the people really that saved community TV and community media in Salem, because they refused. There was a recommendation from the city manager to cut the budget in half, and they overcame it. And Jane said another sentence that I've remembered ever since. She said, "We didn't work this hard to get TV to have it die on the vine." So it's pretty clear that people were ready. This is something that they really wanted. Oh, and I should mention, they were getting feedback, which was the most important thing. Dave Moss told me, he said, "You know, I was at the Roth's Vista the other day, and somebody buttonholed me, and they said," I don't remember the specific subject, but they said they were really mad at the city council for doing something, and Dave said he was thrilled. He said it didn't matter that the person disagreed with the council, it was that they were engaged, that they were participating in citizen civic democracy. So, fortunately, they didn't get rid of CCTV. So what are we going to do now? We need to make programs, but we want to be thoughtful about this, because one of our early sayings was better community through television. And by the way, we just ripped off GE's Better Living Through Chemistry in order to get that phrase, because they have really expensive PR people, and we didn't, and we figured if they came up with this, it's probably pretty good. So what starts happening? The bread and butter of what we did then and still do is civic affairs. We recorded 100 government meetings, well, televised live and then did replay afterwards, but 100 government meetings every calendar year. And it's still what people respond to. So that's an important part of what we do. We also mentioned about school sports. And there's a shot from the sideline. I wish I had a better shot. I did a lot of work on photos the last week. And by the way, before I go any farther, because he might hear this part, Charles Lewis on our staff put all this layout together with the bullet points and with the pictures that's going on. So thank you, Charles. Thank you very much, because I'm not smart enough to do those things. So school sports, again, very popular. First game that we did actually was right before Measure 5, and again, we rushed those in so people would have a basis for comparison of what we could do. And McKay 27, Corvallis 6, September 21, 1990. And that was just such a pillar of our programming and connecting people in the community, as was music. Now that's an early shot from the Pacific. Anybody got kids that were in the music program here? You know, it's one of the best music programs, certainly in the West Coast. It may be the best, and it's one of the best in the nation. In 1990, when my daughter was junior and president of the band council, based on Sprague getting first place in all 4 disciplines, choir, band, orchestra, full symphony, they got the Grammy as the best public school music program in the nation. That's something worth writing. So Carl Roschke's legendary creator of the music program here, hired by an earlier superintendent, Bill Kendrick, to bring music here. Carl came to me in the fall of 1991 and said, "I see you do football games. I see you're doing basketball games. What about band?" And little did he know that my mom was a music teacher. My daughter, very talented musician. So we started doing music programs. And it's still one of the absolute favorite things for me that we do, watching these kids and these teachers work so hard. So that's a part of what we were doing, connect the community. There's a little black kitten that moves me every time I see that. So we work with nonprofit organizations letting people see the good work of nonprofits. And then in the silliest picture that I'm going to put out today, the one at the bottom, that's John Piper, the voice of CCTV. John did so much stuff. And he's there with, it looks like a McKay student who maybe went a tad overboard. Volunteers, so important to us. We started with a staff of 3. So what the volunteers do, they did everything. And we were able to do probably 5 times as much programming because we had volunteers. So there's a guy named Al Snurbush who called me one day and he said, "You wouldn't be interested in a bunch of old guys into the camcorder club, would you?" And I said, "Well, Al, actually, I'm very interested in a bunch of old guys who are part of a camcorder club." And they became our first set of volunteers. Don Bubbleman Roth. Anybody who has seen us do football or basketball and marching band will have seen Don Roth hand-holding a camera. And that's Don in the middle of the top row. Don, we do like to have fun with what we do. We started doing state music, and Don noticed the downtime. The students were bored when they would go into being judging segments, and there'd be like half hour where nothing's happening. So Don started bringing the little bottle of bubble stuff and the little sticks and blowing bubbles. And the students loved it. So then he brought a bubble machine, and the bubble machine probably made the stage a little slick. But the students all on their own came up with the title, Don was and is Bubble Man. We also started getting food sponsors. Our first food sponsor was, excuse me, a woman named Nancy Cochran when she was at Round Table Pizza there by Sunny Slope Shopping Center on my side of town. So volunteers came out of the woodwork to make the organization so much bigger and so much better. I want to single out one program that still surprises me that it happened. How many people were here when a group of people wanted it, the rules changed so they could have a chicken in the backyard? Yeah. Originally, the Salem City Council voted against having chickens in the backyard. And I wish I remember, I didn't find this easily, or at all actually, but I wish I could find the name of the woman who came down and took our classes, took camera class, editing class, did a program, talked about what other communities were doing, how chickens in the backyard worked in other communities, and that it was a good thing. They brought the issue back to the city council and it passed. So it's nice to know that some people actually had impact from a little citizen activism, and that our system, our equipment and channels helped that to happen. Growing up. Yeah. We were able to modernize. Let me see what the 1994 franchise. So the first franchise that got us going was 1987. It was only 5 years because people felt like they weren't really confident in knowing what the community needed. So they'd have a short-term franchise so we would get to franchise renewal a little more quickly. Well, the 5-year franchise lasted 7 years. But in the 1994 franchise, that's where things really take off. Fiber optic cable connecting the city, including public facilities for us to do live programs from. A much bigger capital fund, which eventually led to the building of the media center on Trade Street. A great improvement, more channels, and the ability to go to HD, although we have only right now channel 322 as an HD channel. But the 1994 franchise, if we're looking at the tools of the trade, this is a franchise that moved us forward. Franchise renewal tends to be not something that cable companies are in a hurry to do. The 15-year franchise ended up lasting 24 years. Thank you, Al. So what else do we do? Well, we're able to do just the quality of our work went immensely increased, got better as we used the tools of the trade that came out of the 1994 franchise. And you'll start to see us do things. Well, now we've done the kids' relays. Gosh, we started doing that in 1991 when Homer Kearns asked us to do it. But we start doing things that are just more difficult, more complex because we have better tools. And for that, we get to thank the City of Salem and Marion County for driving a hard bargain on the franchise and getting resources for our community. We take our role in providing public information, public service information very seriously, going all the way back to our original board. And so the work that we do, the public service and public affairs work that we do, is something that is a part of our work just about every day. So you've seen us at the bottom. That's now with the Civic Center closed for the seismic retrofit. That's where the Salem City Council is meeting. But you'll also see the fire safety, the middle picture at the top, working out of one of the fire stations, school board, and then not really sure what the upper right one is there, but it has remained an important part of what we do to serve our local governments well and to keep their price of their work down a little bit by us taking on as much as we can about information distribution. We don't just produce programs. We're a teaching organization. And we're a training organization. We've trained hundreds of people over the years, and we'll continue to do this, not only for the general public, but our middle school summer video camps are going great. We are expanding from 1 to 3 this year in order to do more teaching. We taught at the McLaren Youth Correctional Facility until COVID kind of shot that down. We're trying to restart that. And let's see, the last one, Chemawa Indian School. This is the first time we've really tried to get things going there. So very important for us to be able to teach media skills, especially to young people, although it can be embarrassing when they're better at doing things than I am. Oh, to go back, yeah, if you want to know the picture in the middle, yes, that was our former teacher who now teaches at McNary High School, and Ashley Gruber's a superb teacher. But yes, that's an inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex costume. She said, we were at a conference, and she said, I'm going to ask you for something that you're not going to approve, Alan. I said, so what is it? And she said, I want a T-Rex costume for training. I said, okay. We're also trying to improve and increase our work, our bilingual work. If you look at the 2020 census, you'll see that the Latina population of Salem is 27.2%. But I not only think it's higher now in the public schools, we are now a majority minority school district as of this year. So we take seriously, we need to do more work in this area. And now we've got Esme Leon has come back from Los Angeles, where she was a personal trainer. We have a lot of fitness programming, and she's doing fitness programming in Spanish. So we're very happy to be increasing the work in that field. I forgot to mention one volunteer earlier, a guy named Steve Handy. Steve tragically was hurt in an automobile accident on icy roads in the past. So he's not been with us now for 12 years. But Steve he did a lot of our pioneer work as a volunteer. Steve made our equipment stereo, our channels stereo. He improved replay from remote controls to computer-based replays. He would run audio and 4 replay machines at the same time in a game. And there are times when I think I should take a 5-year period of our history and just write down the words, what Steve did, and leave it at that. But we are working very intentionally, and we're doing a lot of hard work in order to get our bilingual services and programming increased. Why does it matter? Well, if you've seen our latest edition, the multimedia wing, This is a wing where 3 restaurants failed in the past, so we talked with the city of Salem and Marion County, bought it, and now it's an emergency information center, a radio podcasting center. It's really terrific. We're distributing our signal, Apple TV, video on demand. We have a phone app, Roku, so we're trying to reach the home as much as possible. Whoops. So my main message is there's a place for you at CC Media, whether it's as a board member like Jane, or whether it's a volunteer like Steve, a sponsor like not only Roundtable Pizza, but now Craig and Sherry Klein in Golden Ruleism ambassadors, great help to us, or producers. There's a place for you. And we think you'll have fun. Thank you very much. We're going to show a video right now, and then after the video, I'll take questions.
Welcome to Inside Onsite. I'm Wendy Brokaw, and we are on-site at the new Bridgeway Community Health Medical Center, where they are bringing primary care, medical detox, and patient services to one campus.
Hola amigos, claro que sí, aquí estamos hoy con Erika nuevamente. Erika, ¿cómo se llama tu puesto?
Nosotros somos Corazón Art and Crafts.
Okay.
Imagine all these people being able to come and experience the natural beauty of Salem, our amenities, the attractions, sporting events, our arts, our culture.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aliwan Fiesta of the Philippines!
But give it a go.
Okay.
Give it a go.
And really, you need to pull it quickly?
You need to, not necessarily quickly, but there's force needed.
Okay, so you need to jerk it. Okay. All right.
Surprise!
Capital Community Media! They are your media company. Coming to you live right here in downtown Salem, this spectacular nonprofit has been telling Salem stories for 36 years through the internet and television.
So the sad truth is that many, many children go without that representation, without that voice.
I didn't even know what to expect from a CASA. I had to even learn what the acronym CASA meant. But it quickly became clear that a CASA was someone who would work on behalf of the child, who would have the child's best interests at heart.
Thank you also to Capital Community Media for streaming this live and keeping it free and accessible for every Salem resident. And most importantly, thank you to the people of Salem who submitted questions, tuned in, and showed up tonight. Your voice is the whole point.
So Route 11 is our longest, most heavily traveled route in the system, and it covers from the farthest south point in our service area to the farthest north point. So it goes from the Marion County Correctional Campus all the way up to Kaiser Transit Center. It's the highest exposure and where a lot of the traffic is in Salem.
It was such a relief in that moment, a moment where there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety and fear in our community, to have someone like Marion Polk Food Share reaching out and saying, we have an idea to help.
I move to the adoption of an administrative ordinance approving conditional use comprehensive plan change case number 24-038 TLM Holdings LLC to replace withdrawn ordinance number 1485 dated December 17th, 2025.
How will I know if I'm going to be called by you or I'm going to be called one of the other entities for a place to live? Like, how do you work through that?
So the interesting fact about our permanent supportive housing is we have a basically a revised coordinated entry approval with Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance.
As Joaquin mentioned, this training is brought to you in response to a growing concern in the community regarding interactions with federal immigration agents or ICE agents. The purpose of this training is to explain the rights everyone has in Oregon when interacting with federal law enforcement officers or ICE agents.
By now, the entire room is filled with thick, black smoke. It's toxic and fast-moving. Within 90 seconds, the heat can reach the point of flashover, when everything in the room ignites at once.
Jesperson one-armed it up. Oh, what a... That's the play of the game so far.
Unbelievable from the 37. Watch this.
Little hook and ladder there. That was definitely planned. They were knowing. They knew exactly what they were doing. And Cher gets out in the open. And that's a battle right there. Cher versus Wistig, two veterans.
Ladies and gentlemen, and honored guests, please stand and join me in congratulating the McNary High School graduating class of 2025.
Present the class of 2025.
The McKay High School graduating class of 2025.
I present the Community Transition Program's graduating class of 2025.
Our 2025 graduating class, congratulations.
Your Salem High School graduating class of 2025.
Native Education's graduating class of 2025.
The West Salem High School class of 2025.
Thank you. You know, every one of those was really important to the groups we were working with. So our motto is, if it's important to you, it's important to us. And whatever we're working on, that's the most important thing we've ever done. Questions? Yeah, questions.
Question about current funding sources and with a few more people going to other kinds of TV and having other options, what's going on with that?
May I first ask how many generous millionaires there are in the room today? So it's a real problem, and our funding is down. Cable subscription revenue went down 23% in 2 years, and that's our primary source of funding. So we're working with as many groups. We brought on a fundraiser, but we are short in the budget moving forward, and we're taking it very seriously, working a lot on it. If you know of someone who might be a good match for us, buttonhole me after we stop here, because we need to pull out all the stops in order to get back to what you just saw for the last 6 minutes. We're no longer capable of doing everything that's in that last 6 minutes.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. Thanks so much for your presentation. I'm one of those people who didn't get cable when I moved here, and I mostly rely on LG TV channels and YouTube. So I'm curious, how are you dealing? You didn't mention YouTube, and it seems like that's another great venue.
Well, we actually have a lot on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. And I think that's the way a lot of government meetings are accessed. It is true that only cable subscribers are funding us right now. So 100% of our funding from individuals are those people who are gutting out what Comcast is doing in the cable bill. I know what my cable bill is, and it's really high. But we do have a lot of programs available in other ways, and we encourage people to take advantage of that. Again, I think you'll find the government meetings on YouTube, and you'll find Roku, Apple TV, and our app good ways of accessing programs.
Alan. Nice to see you again. Glad you're still around.
Thank you, Cassia. It's nice to be around.
I would just like to say thank you for taking the time and becoming involved with the Institute for Continued Learning. We started that program, 10 years ago or maybe more now? And it was very exciting when we did that. And the first program was Mr. Wax with the Reconciliation Project. Anyway, so I'm glad that you're still here, still willing to work with us, and I thoroughly enjoy reviewing those programs from time to time on channel 22 or 23 or 21, whichever one it happens to be. Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot.
Well, you're welcome. And again, this is my life's work. This has never been a job to me, and I'm just really lucky to have been able to do it. But thank you.
Hi, this is Dave. I'll follow up with what Cassia said. Right here. Alan.
Oh, back. Oh, hi, Dave.
Hi. I just want to follow up with that. Yeah, we've been, the camera in the room is that we've had a wonderful partnership with CCTV, CCM now, for a number of years. And that was started by Hardin King. I think he's the one that approached you and suggested that you come and record our presentations, which are now preserved on a YouTube channel of our own. That's an ICL channel under CCM's channel. So you can go there. There'll be a blip in the next newsletter about how to get to that, those links, and they're also available on the webpage now. But thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you, Alan. And are you on your second retirement? Anyhow, congratulations if that's the case.
Well, I kind of hope I do it better than the first retirement, which is an utter failure.
Hi, I'm Mark here in front. Could you tell us more about how to volunteer?
What do you like to do? I mean, if you like to run a camera, if you like to edit, like to help in the studio.
Contact points, how do people go about connecting with CCTV? Is it still the library or?
No, we're 575 Trade Street. It's only a 7-minute walk from here. I know the number of times I've walked back and forth between the two. But we're at 575 Trade Street. Talk with our staff, tell them what you're interested in doing, and they'll plug you into something. We are still heavily volunteer driven. We prize volunteers, and so we want you to be able to make contact with us. Again, 575 Trade Street, very close by.
I'm Mark, and I'm interested in the diversity of the sources of your funding, and are there public purpose charges charged the investor-owned cable companies that then are made available to organizations like yours?
Cable companies pay rent to use, we're called a franchise fee, in order to use public rights of way to string their fiber in order to connect to the homes. So there is a franchise fee, and we're funded from that franchise fee. That's still our biggest source of funding, but unfortunately cable revenue is less than half of what it was at peak. Nationwide cable TV subscriptions started dropping in the year 2014, but we weren't aware of how much money had been saved up. So we got late to the game to diversify funding sources, and late to the game means we need to work harder. But yeah, there is something, kind of a public purpose, that's a good name for it also, but the franchise fees are literally rent.
That's the last question there, so if you want to talk to you afterwards, you can do that.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite things ever, doing this job.
Thank you.
Thank you.